Okay, so today we are looking at graphing linear inequalities. And so we did this a little bit the other day, but we did it on just a number line. Today we're actually going to graph it on a coordinate plane. So let's look at the first one. Now, y'all remember up here, if it is just a less than or greater than sign, we had an open dot. This time it's going to be a dotted line. So greater than or equal, not greater than or equal to, greater than or less than means that the line is dotted. So it's like being an open dot. And then if it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it is a solid line. And so the way that I remember this is, do y'all see how it has a solid line underneath the sign? Does everybody see that? Yes. When it has the solid line underneath the sign, I know it has to be solid. If it doesn't have a line, then it's going to be dotted. That's how I keep those separate. Now for shading above or below, we're going to shade above the line if it is greater than or greater than and equal to, and then below if it's less than or equal to. And that should make sense because if you make less than someone, or if your job occupation is less than someone, you're below them, whereas if you make more than them, you're above them. Okay? So let's try number one. So for number one, we always want to, and y'all did a really good job of this in your review, graphing this Y-intercept first. So we would graph 1 first by putting a dot at 1. And then we would use the slope, which is 2/3. So we go up 2, to the right 3, put a dot. Now, looking at my sign right here, is this going to be dotted or solid? Dotted. So I want to draw a dotted line through the 2 points. And next we want to shade. So if it's less than, am I going to shade below or above? Below. Below. So I'm going to shade this area right here. And so you can just kind of scribble with your pencil to show me that shaded. Does that make sense? Good. All right, let's try another one of those. So let's look at number 2. So number 2, our y-intercept is -5. So we're going to go down 5, put a point. Then we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1, 2, 3, since our slope is +4 over +3. Now looking at the sign, is it open? Not open or closed dot. Is it solid or dotted? Solid. It is solid. So I want to draw a solid line. And am I going to shade above or below here? Above. Above, because it's greater than. So this would be above the line. Okay, let's try one more of those. So let's look at number 4. In number 4, we're going to graph -1 first. So I'm going to go down 1 and put a point. Then I'm going to use my slope, which is, it's just 4. What is 4 technically over? 1. So it would be 4 over 1, which means I'd go up 1, 2, 3, 4, to the right 1. Now, looking at my sign, is this going to be dotted or solid? Solid. Very good. So I'm going to draw a line through both those dots. Am I going to shade above or below? Below. Below. So this side, is below. Okay, if you can't tell which way to shade, a good way to look at this is if I look at this dot, if I start at this dot, if I end up in this area, which way do I have to go, up or down? Anybody?
Down.
To get here, I have to go down?
No.
I have to go up. To get into this quadrant, I'd have to go down. So we know this one is below, and this is above. And so we wanted to shade below. So you can draw your arrows from your points to tell which one's above or below, if it's hard to tell. What do you mean, what if it's in the middle? We'll talk about that. Okay? So let's look at what do the back of y'all's notes look like? Okay. Let's go ahead and go to the back. Okay, so from here, this is what you just practiced on your sheet of paper as well. How we get it in slope-intercept form, which means y is by itself. So y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. Except this time we're not going to have an equal. We're going to have a less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. So number one, if I want to get y all by itself, then what I need to do is I need to subtract the 2x from both sides. So we subtract 2x from this side, subtract 2x from this side. That's going to give me negative 3y is less than or equal to. And now, do I want my negative 2x or my 9 to come first?
No, 9.
Why 9?
Negative 2.
We want negative 2 to come first because it has the x. So we put negative 2x plus 9. Now, what would be my last step to get y by itself? Okay, now, in a normal equation, we just divide by negative 3 and nothing happens. What happens when we have an inequality sign and we divide by a negative? The sign will change. So since we're dividing by a negative, instead of being less than or equal to, this is going to change to greater than or equal to. If I have a negative 2 and negative 3, that's a positive 2/3 x minus 3. And there is my equation. So do not forget to flip that sign when we divide by a negative. Okay, we're going to do another one like that. So let's look at number 2. So number 2, Leah, what would you do first to get y by itself?
Subtract 5.
Very good. We subtract 5x. And that gives me negative 3y is greater than or equal to. Do I put negative 5x or negative 12 first?
5x.
Negative 5x. And then minus 12. Okay? JJ, what would I do to get y all by itself there? Divide by negative 3. What does that mean, Chris? Okay, the negatives cancel out, but what does dividing by a negative mean? Yes, the sign flips. Okay, just like we did in the first one where I circled all the negative 3's, the sign is going to flip. So it would be y, and instead of greater than or equal to, what would it change to? Less than or equal to. And then negative 5 over negative 3 is a positive 5 over 3x plus 4. Very good. Okay, let's try one more of those. So let's look at number 3. So number 3, Will, what would you do first to get y by itself? Subtract 3x. So that would give me y is less than, and we're going to put negative 3x first, plus 4. Now, do I have to do anything to get y by itself? Nope, it is already by itself. So this would be our answer. All right, questions there? No? Okay, then let's look at graphing some. Okay, so for number 1 right here, the first thing I need to do is to get it in a form where I can graph it. So I need to get y by itself. So Jordan, what would you do first to get y by itself? We're going to subtract 5x from both sides. That's going to give me 2y is greater than, and then we put negative 5x first plus 6. Then if we want y by itself, what would we do next? We would divide by 2. And so that would give me y is greater than negative 5 over 2x, because that doesn't divide evenly, and then plus 3. Okay, so if I want to graph this, what would I graph first? Negative 5 over 2 or 3? 3. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, put my point on the y-axis, and then we would go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 2 and put a point. Okay, so looking at this sign, is it going to be dotted or solid? It would be dotted. So we're going to draw a line that is dotted through both points. And then we've got to see, are we shading above or below? Above. Now, which way is above? To the left or to the right? To the right. And the way that you tell that is if I took from the point this is going up, this is going down. From this point, this is going up, and it lands in this quadrant, this is going down. Okay, does everybody see that? That's an easy way to tell how to shade, is just from the point, draw an arrow up, wherever it goes up, that's part of being above. Almost always. Okay. Let's try another one of those. Let's look at number 3. So in number 3, we want to get y all by itself so we can graph. So JJ, what would you do first? Subtract 3x. Very good. That would give me negative 4y. Don't forget to bring down that negative in front of that 4. Is less than or equal to, and we put negative 3x first, plus 20. Then to get y by itself, what would we have to do? But what do we have to do first? We have to divide by a negative 4. And yes, that does mean that we have to flip our sign, because we're dividing by a negative. So this is going to cancel. We get y, and instead of less than or equal to, it's going to be what? Greater than or equal to. negative 3 over negative 4 is a positive 3 over 4, x. And then 20 over negative 4 is a minus 5. So this would be our new equation. Okay? So then we want to graph this. So we will graph a negative 5 first. So we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a dot. And then we graph our slope, so we would go up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, looking at this sign, since it's greater than or equal to, would that make it a solid or dotted line? A solid line. So we would want to draw a solid line through our points. And now, we want to graph, we want to shade. So let's go ahead and, Chris, let's draw our arrows. So I'm going to draw an arrow up from here, an arrow down from here, an arrow up from here, an arrow down from here. So am I shading above or below here in this equation? It would be above because it's greater than. So the left would actually be above here. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to try one more of those and then I'm going to let you practice. Okay? So let's look at number 5. Okay, Bella, what would you do first to get y by itself in number 5? Add 6x to both sides. Okay, that's going to cancel those out. I have negative 3y is less than. We always want our x first, so we're going to put 6x minus 12. Then how do we get y by itself? Divide by negative 3. What does dividing by a negative do? It changes the sign. So when we rewrite our equation, we've got to change this sign. So we're going to get y is greater than 6 divided by a negative 3 is a negative 2x. And then negative 12 over negative 3 is a positive 4. So we would go up. I have not yet, but it would be helpful to put a 1 under the negative 2. So we would go up and plot our first point at 4 on the y-axis, and then we would use our slope, so we would go down to right 1, put a point. Okay, looking at this sign, would it be dotted or solid? Dotted. So we would draw a dotted line through those 2 points. Then we're going to have to shade. So if I drew an arrow from these, this would be up, this would be down. So are we shading up or down if it's greater than? If you're greater than, are you above or below? You're above. So above would be to the left here. To the right here.